Good evening, everyone. Welcome to June's edition of All Access Belize. Thank you for joining us. My name is David Kafka. I am your host for tonight, and I'm coming to you live from Mahogany Bay Village Resort and Beach Club, a Curio by Hilton. We are just getting ready for an investor summit where we will have over 250 investors and people speaking about the economy and what's going on in the world, what we need to look out for. So stay tuned for some newsletters and some posts coming up and things just talking about, some things I took away and how I'm applying it to my life. We'll be talking about crypto, gold, and silver, how to have, all the capital that we need. And it's not just money, it's social capital. Just there's 8 different types of capital that Chris Martenson talks about in Peak Prosperity. And you need all of them, not just the money capital. So again, thanks for joining tonight. I ask you to put your questions anytime you feel like it into the question and answer box. And we have Sarah on the back end that's going to help moderate this. And I'm very excited to have a very special guest tonight. She is my one and only, my firstborn daughter, Serena. Her married name is Serena Hoffman, formerly Kafka. And Serena, how are you, sir? Ma'am?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Just a little nervous, so forgive me.
Don't be nervous. So Serena grew up here. She was 11 when we moved here. And probably 4 years before that is when she first came to Belize on vacation. And then we would come to Belize every 6 months for a good month. As you may know my story, I had a landscape company in Charleston, South Carolina. And what we did is it was built up enough to where we had managers running it, and we would just, we could work from anywhere. So we would work from here, and we would spend 2 weeks in Placencia and then 2 weeks somewhere else. San Pedro, Caye, Hopkins, Placencia. Where else did we go, Serena? PG. Yeah. So what took us, I've been here 13 years now. So what took us 15, 16 years, I'm trying to condense for you. So it doesn't take you, 15 years to pick where you want to live. You can use my relationships. You can use the people I use, but I'll also get you trained up enough to where, you could pick your own people. So Serena lives in Florida. So Serena, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. And then we'll kind of get into some questions. I'll ask you some questions if we don't have any questions. And the questions don't have to be really just about Serena and growing up in Belize. They could be really anything, construction-wise, investment-wise, pretty much anything. I like to say I'm a Belize. I know Belize. I have my 10,000 hours in this country and learning the market, learning Belize. So I am, in my opinion, an expert on the country. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just I live it, breathe it. I'm here every day, and I'm here to help you. So as you know, I have the Remax franchise in Placencia, Hopkins, and Corozal is coming later this year. Also have a property management company I'm starting probably in the middle of this year. And we have several other businesses, an art and gift shop, and I do asset management for people. So we put groups of investors together and I give you an investment. If you choose to come along with us, then we will help you. We will put the deal together, and then all the investors get to partake in that investment. So I can really help you on the passive side or the real estate side. So Serena, thanks for joining me tonight, and tell us a little bit about where you're living now and just a little bit about you.
Having me. So my name's Serena. I am your operations manager, I would say, for almost all of your entities. So I have my hand in Remax pretty heavily right now, I would say. I just got back from a trip to Placencia. I'm hoping to go quarterly to check up on things there. And I'm excited to kind of get a little bit deeper into your other companies. So I live in Florida, about 40 minutes from Orlando, and I'm married, and we have a dog named Cooper, who is a handful. I used to work at a sheet metal shop, actually doing operations at that place. But now that I'm working from home, Cooper is very happy to, be by my side and squirrel watch. I had to put him away for tonight because he's on patrol all the time. So, I grew up in Belize, like you had mentioned, and I'd actually just written a newsletter about it for you for this week. So I'm excited for that to go out. Kind of going a little bit deeper into growing up, what it was like. I didn't go to school here. I was homeschooled, but that was still a unique experience, I would say. And a little bit about me.
Very good. Very good. So thank you for joining us. And I'm going to ask you some questions, and we're going to kind of go into it. It's definitely changed. Belize has changed since Serena got here. She did go to a private school on Johns Island, South Carolina. So she had a pretty good basis. There weren't many options, in my opinion, for schooling in Placencia, where we chose to live. I personally thought at the time that San Pedro was maxed out. I was wrong. I was very wrong. But there is a school in San Pedro. But now, pretty much wherever you want to live in the country, there's a lot of schooling. Private schools, government schools. Serena's two brothers one goes to a government school, and one is not quite old enough to go to school yet. But what was your schooling like when you moved here, Serena? What did we do?
Yeah, so I was homeschooled with Pear Blossom. They basically sent us the books prior to us moving to Belize, and I would log on and I would have my schooling there. I really liked it. I would say if anyone watching has kids and they're thinking about moving, I would definitely consider the homeschooling route. I think because I was at a private school, I wouldn't say I missed out on that school opportunity. Doing homeschool, I was very happy to do it. I was done in an hour or two with the day, just because it was only me and I only had to do a certain set. So I would do a couple lessons within the hour or two, and then I'd kind of have my whole day to go to the beach, go get ice cream at Tutti Frutti, which is number one on anyone's list. Please don't miss out on that. But yeah, so I would say I really enjoyed it. And I don't look back and think like, oh man, I wish I had gone to school. I think culturally you can learn just as much, from being in a classroom than not. So.
Good, very good. And when we moved to Placencia, it was one or two grocery stores. You could pretty much get, sweet peppers, or what we call bell peppers, carrots, tomatoes, lettuce, and that was pretty much it. Now, you can get whatever you want. You can get mixed greens. We have many grocery stores throughout the whole country. San Pedro was a little bit more developed, in 2010, and now it's really developed. So it was really cool. Tell us, Serena, a little bit about, go ahead. You want to say something else?
I will say, I think that I single-handedly brought Dr. Pepper to Placencia. I remember going to one of the owners at the store, and I'm like, "Do you think you could get your hands on some Dr. Pepper?" All the all the Coke that they had was just Coke and Fanta. And he's like, "Yeah, I can try, but if it doesn't sell well, then I'm sorry." And they have Dr. Pepper to this day. So, any Dr. Pepper lovers out there, you're welcome. But that's just what I wanted to add.
Serena's mom went to the States one day and found this thing called Greek yogurt. And she did the same thing Serena did with Dr. Pepper, and it's like, "Hey, there's this thing called Greek yogurt in the States. You think you can bring some?" And now they're like Greek yogurt everywhere. So it was pretty cool. We're starting to get some questions, and we had some pre-selected questions. So let me just kind of go over some of these, and we can, talk to Serena a little bit more. This one gentleman, I'm not sure who it was, said that he's talked and looked around Belize. He's narrowed it down to Corozal or San Ignacio, and he's looking for a house for retirement. Which area would be best from a retirement perspective? So let's just answer that. One thing I can't do is I can't tell you what's best for you. There's been many, many people I put money on that they will pick Placencia and they hate it. They wanted San Pedro, and vice versa. There's people that I'd put $1 million down that they would pick San Pedro and they pick Hopkins or Corozal. So what I'm here to say is I think it's great that you narrowed it down to 2. What you need to do is come visit both places. That's what we did. Of course, Serena wanted San Pedro because there was more to do. From a business perspective, because I had to work, I thought, again, like I mentioned, San Pedro was maxed out. So I picked the next best thing, which was Placencia, which I ended up falling in love with and love to this day. So I think you should spend some time in both. Go to Corozal for a week, go to San Ignacio for a week. They both have their pros and cons. Corozal is close to Mexico, and people, retirees, love going across to the border to Merida, where there's good hospital. Corozal, it's a boat ride to Chetumal. Cancun has some good hospitals as well. Just many different reasons to go to Corozal. McDonald's. We went to McDonald's with Serena. All kind of places. Yes, the movie theaters. Then he goes on to ask, would it be best to buy an existing home or would it cost more to build a new home? Usually it's more expensive to buy an existing home, but both of those markets are pretty good for existing homes. And usually you could get somebody that needs out and they're selling it below, what it would cost to build. So just, find both of them, look at both of them. Building comes with its shares of problems and issues. He's also saying recommendation for realtors. All Access Belize is more educational. I try to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly in Belize. So I'm not here to sell you anything, but I do have agents in both areas. So we can help you, send an email to me and I can introduce you to my agents in Corozal and San Ignacio. And we do show everybody's properties. So it doesn't have to be listed with RE/MAX. It could be listed with Century 21, with a private company, whoever's listed with, we'll show it to you if it fits your criteria. Then he's saying that from what I'm hearing, even if you are a realtor, it's best to hire an attorney to ensure that everything goes smooth. That's correct. You always want a lawyer or a closing agent to do the closing for you. We always have a third party do it. It doesn't have to be a lawyer, but again, whatever makes you feel comfortable. The process is still the same, the title searches and everything like that. So Serena, you want to add anything to that?
I would say along the lines of what you were saying about just making sure that you spend time in both places and be honest with yourself too. I think, what do you really want out of this? And what do you think that both places can give you, and also, to hinder you as well. But
Yeah,
no, I
very
think you
good.
hit it.
And then he's asking about a certificate of title, how it applies to undeclared and declared value or undeclared lands. So in Belize, there's like 5 different types of titles. There's a grant, which is a property. Well, there's actually more. There's leases. There's different types of leases, and you don't want to buy a lease. But once you get into the titles, there's a deed of conveyance, there's grants, then there's a TCT, which is a transfer certificate of title. There's certificate of titles, there's land certificates. The land certificate is a declared area. So places like San Pedro, Belmopan, Belize City, Corozal, San Ignacio, all those are going to be registered areas, which means they're digitized. They've done a deep title search. And if somebody, let's say I own a property in Placencia that is a deed of conveyance, I cannot transfer that title to anybody because it's now a declared area. So you have to go through the process of first registration to get a land certificate. But all the titles, we do a title search. It just depends on if it's declared or non-declared area. A declared area is pretty much done on a computer. If it's a non-declared area, they physically go through the books to different books and go back as far as they need to go back. Then he's asking about any good contacts. I think that's it on that one. If you have any other questions on that, if you're in, just let me know. I'm kind of going through. Jim Barry, what's the best way to pay stamp tax and land tax? So Jim, when you buy a property, we always pay the stamp tax up front. You can't transfer the property without paying the stamp tax. So if it's a deed for contract where you're financing it through the seller, then once you pay it off, then the lawyer or your closing agent will pay that. So, don't worry about that. Then the land tax is different. You can hire, like my firm does it. I'm about to do it. I have to go pay my taxes every year as well on all my properties. So I usually take somebody, or I have one of my people go down. We have like 15, 18 people we're about to pay taxes for now that we pay. Usually I don't pay every year. What I do is I go and I pay for 2-3 years because it's so inexpensive. So anybody can really pay it for you. It's kind of a pain. They don't send you a bill or anything like that. So just find somebody. Most lawyers will pay it for you and whatever. All right, so I'm going back to the question and answer. Is title transfer in Belize simple? It is pretty simple. It's kind of just like what you do in North America. However, in North America, you're typically in a lawyer's office and all the parties are here. Because Belize is a place where not a lot of people live, as far as who's selling the properties, we send those transfer documents to both parties. So we send it to the buyer first. He signs it, sends it to the seller. The seller signs it. There's instructions on what to do. You can call your agent. You can call your closing agent, whatever, and they will take care of it for you. And make sure it's good. Then they'll send it to us. We look over it, make sure it's good. Then we send it to the closing agent as well. And the closing agent will lodge the documents, or the lawyer will lodge the documents, and then it's your property. So it is pretty simple. Hey, Marty, how are you? Marty Cerez, you go, Serena.
Thanks.
Lauren, is it Lauren? Let me put my old man glasses on. The best tourist hotspot for luxury Airbnb investment. Man, that is a fantastic question. I'd say pretty much the top tourist destinations in order is Ambergris Caye, which is San Pedro, Placencia. Then you have Hopkins, and San Ignacio and Corozal are kind of very close neck and neck. For a luxury Airbnb, I would pick one of the top three. Probably the top two, Placencia and San Pedro. I personally am not a guy that will pay a lot of money for a hotel. We like to stay in nice places. We have stayed in nice places, but I've seen places rent for $2,800 a night in Mahogany Bay. I know of places that rent for $15,000, $20,000 a week. There's places in San Pedro and islands where it's, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for an island. So it's funny, since COVID has happened, people are traveling, and that market, the luxury market, has really just blew up. People are traveling together, people they know, and they are renting these nice houses. Serena, when you were just here last week in Placencia, we went around and we're looking at some of them, weren't we?
Mm-hmm. I also do think, though, and I'd like your 2 cents on it, though, is I feel like Hopkins is where Placencia was when we first moved. So to, maybe get there before other people, you could go to Hopkins to kind of get there before it blows up. I do think, but again, Placencia and San Pedro are top 2 for a reason.
There's a house there's 2 houses in, of course, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but one in Hopkins is like a 6-7 bedroom house. It's like $5,000, $6,000 a night, and it is beautiful. It's right next to Jaguar Reef, and I know the owners, but the luxury housing market is just gone crazy, like every market in North America. So Chris is asking 2 questions. Where is the prettiest water in Belize? Man, that's a great question. So me and Serena were just talking about this at lunchtime. As you all know, I live in both places. I have a house in San Pedro and I have a house in Placencia. In my opinion, the water in San Pedro is gorgeous. The turquoise, just very, very beautiful. However, last week in Placencia, the water was like a dark blue. It was just beautiful, crystal clear. I actually took a couple hours off. Serena left Saturday morning and we went to the beach Saturday afternoon. And it was just, man, it was just pretty. There's more of a beach in Placencia because the reef is farther. Whereas San Pedro, the beaches aren't as nice unless you're on the West Coast side, which is the sunset side. The future of San Pedro is going to be the West Coast side. But the water on the reef side is just really spectacular. What's your favorite place, Serena, as far as water goes?
Picturesque is San Pedro, I would say. But as you were talking, I was thinking, especially I think you have 3 kids. So I would even say for lounging and things like that, maybe Placencia, and then doing a day trip. When my husband and I went in December, We went to King Louis Island, which is 20 miles off of Placencia. Is that right? Maybe not 20.
Yeah, it's not quite that long. It's probably 10, 12. But it
How-
takes it. Yeah,
It takes you
but
a second
It takes
to
a good
get.
45 minutes.
Right. But then you get the island water. So I think it's easily attainable either places, but it's just kind of, again, it's your preference and what you would like.
Yeah. And also, like, what Serena and her husband did was they did a day trip from Placencia. They did a day trip to the waterfalls. They did horseback riding. So the jungle is just right there, where you could do zip lining, you can do cave tubing, hiking, things like that. San Pedro is nice because the reef is right there. So within really 5 minutes, you're over the reef, deep sea fishing. Or you can be inside the reef and do snorkeling or diving as well. But as far as any Mayan architectural, I hate to say ruins, but the Mayan architectural sites, any zip lining, all that's going to have to be done on the mainland. So you're going to have to take a boat or a plane across, drive to it, and then come back. With the 3 kids, Chris, in my opinion, the best zoo in the world. Of course, I've not been to every zoo in the world, but I've been to a few. The Belize Zoo is spectacular. You're not, like, if you go to a zoo in the States, you're, I don't know, thousands of feet from the animals. Whereas in Placencia, I mean, when Junior was a baby, when we first started coming there, I was playing with Junior. Junior was the jaguar at the zoo, and I was just playing with him with my shoes. And now he's just, well, Junior, I think, is past, but it's just, you can be up close. I mean, you don't want to pet him. Of course, I'm going to break the rules and pet him. So
Put a little disclaimer out there that what he just said is not advice.
Right. Just watch your kids.
Yeah. Please.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on what you're looking for. I'd say you can't go wrong with Placencia or San Pedro. A week does go by fast here. You want a little bit of lounging time as well. But it was, in my opinion, it was probably, I hated to take Serena away from her friends, but it brought us closer together because she wasn't on her phone or out with friends all the time. It was more family. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of nomadic workers coming, people coming for a few years. However, like, when did you leave, Serena? How old were you when you left?
18, I think.
Belize is great to grow kids up, but I don't think it's the best place for a young adult. There's too much trouble to get into and all day to do it. So
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, is that when I was there, I love coming back. I think that part of me, because I did move when I was 11, I did, miss the luxuries, of the States. And it is easier to get things and to do things. However, I was kind of just talking about this. I wouldn't trade that time that I had for anything. I learned so much. We were closer. The things that I learned in Belize is invaluable to me because I feel like it takes people their whole life to kind of figure out, money isn't everything, health and family and, community, that is important. And I feel like I learned that there because of how young I was and being able to see that firsthand and experience that. Even for vacation, I think what a great experience you can give your kids, but also, moving there was, like I said, invaluable.
So I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And I want you to think about it while I answer Marty's next question. This is All Access Belize. We talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of Belize. What are one or two things you did not like about growing up in Belize as a child? Okay, just think about that for a minute, and then
Stew on it.
yeah. So Marty's asking is there beach area in Hopkins? Yes, there is. Hopkins has a very nice beach, kind of like Placencia. It's got the longer beach. Hopkins is probably a couple miles closer to the reef. So Placencia, well, I think Punta Gorda is probably even further out. But as you go north, the reef gets closer. And then there's actually a spot at the very north of San Pedro, Ambergris Caye, where it kind of touches. The reef kind of gets really, really close. So as you go south, it gets further and further away. So Hopkins being an hour from Placencia Drive, it's a little bit closer. But Hopkins does have a nice beach. They do have the a little bit darker blue color. However, in my opinion, the water does tend to be not as clear because the City River dumps out right there, which is the City River is probably one of my favorite rivers in the whole country. We have property on the City River that hopefully we'll build a little fishing shack one day where we can go and hang out. But I love the City River, but it does dump out right there. And so when we get a lot of rains and things like that, it will kind of get a little murkier or darker. So thanks for that question. So again, it's 6:30. I appreciate you all for joining us at All Access Belize. This is June edition. Next month, we hope to have a police officer here. We're working on it very hard to have a kind of a high-ranking police officer to talk about crime and talk about the different types of police officers. There's like 4 or 5 different types of police officers here. And while we're talking about, while Serena's still thinking, I do want to talk about some of the issues because this is real life, right? Belize is gorgeous. You do come down here, you fall in love with it, you want to just jump on something right away. And I'm happy to sell you something. But I'm also going to make sure you're ready. But when you're buying here, there's a lot of, I like to say that Belize is a sunny place for shady characters. So make sure you use somebody that is going to show you everything, that is going to educate you about the market, not just sell you something, but help you through the process, help you through the building process, introduce you to builders if you're going to build. And also, we just had some cyber crime happen to us, and we want to make sure that you never ever send any money to anyone. This is worldwide. It doesn't have to be in Belize. But the banks that they were sending the money to was a bank in the US. But the emails got intercepted and they changed the emails and changed everything. So if you are working with a real estate agent, if you're working with a lawyer, always pick up the phone and talk to, like at my office, if we're helping you with the closing, talk to my office manager and everything so you can confirm the wiring instructions, because it's, you know, we can't have insurance here. I've been looking, but because the real estate market is a non-regulated area, a non-regulated market, it's hard to get insurance like a errors and emissions insurance or director's insurance, things like that. So can y'all hear the music? I hope it's not disturbing y'all. Okay. They're practicing for the summit this weekend. So it was just, they just started practicing. So I wanted to make sure y'all couldn't hear it. So again, just be mindful. Also what we learned is just don't click on anything. Even if it looks like it's coming from DocuSign, or it's coming from Wells Fargo, or it's coming from David Kafka. Make sure that make sure it's coming from them. Never give your passwords out, things like that. So, Serena, do you come up with something?
Okay, so I don't want to sound too salesy here, because I think thinking about how I felt as a kid are things that I took negatively then are something that I would view now as a positive. So, well, kind of. So the slowness of the country, I think, was hard for me, as well as things to do. Things to do now, completely different from when we lived there, when I was 11. So I think now there's a lot more things to do. And I think I appreciate just doing nothing as well. So there is that. So, just making sure that the kids are entertained, which I feel like now wouldn't be too hard, considering, there's much more things. The slowness. I think I will never get rid of that feeling of urgency just coming from the States. I think that's something that's so hard to completely get rid of. For instance, we needed a statement from the bank. You can't go online and just let me pull up my little statement. Nope, you have to go to the bank. You have to prove that you are who you say you are, and you have to have them print out a ledger for you. So I think that is something to get used to. That slowness, that slower pace of life, which I'm actually trying to implement here when we're not in Belize, which is funny because I thought of it as a negative then, but I'm wanting to really slow down life now. So I would say that those were probably the two biggest complaints I had as a kid, but again, I don't really, writing it down, I don't really see them as bad things anymore.
Yeah, it's hard, especially people from like
New York, California,
Los Angeles. It's hard for them to slow down. And when we first moved here, I remember it would take 15, 20 minutes just to get their drink order.
Mm-hmm. But that's not the same now. And so, and that's the thing. I remember just coming in December, I told my husband, I'm like, okay, we cannot go to a restaurant if you're hungry because it's not going to come. And I remember let me think of my words. He and I were having a conversation and he was like, that wasn't slow at all. And I'm like, that's not what I remember at all. So things have definitely, changed and are more acclimating to the host.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot more training going in. So they're training about customer service and things like that. However, in Belize, the culture is they don't want to bring you the check. They don't want you to feel like you have to leave. So they're not going to bring you the check. You have to ask for the check. So it's pretty cool in that manner. And I tell people you could stay as busy as you want or as laid back as you want. I mean, I work 60, 70 hours a week. I like it. But when we moved in 2010, I was starting over. So we had sold everything, paid our bills off, and we came to Belize with next to nothing. I think it was under 20 grand. So we had to start over. And so I'm also preparing for, retirement and things like that, and my legacy to leave to Serena and her brothers. So it's just totally different. And to me, it's not, I'm showing property in Belize. How hard is that? Not hard at all.
Does it feel like work?
Yes, it doesn't. So Chris is like, would you recommend concrete block construction or wood frame? It's really personal taste. I have one of each. I have a concrete home and a wood frame home. Me personally, I like the wood frame homes. That's one of the reasons why I love Mahogany Bay Resort and Beach Club, because it reminds me of Charleston. It's all Victorian, British colonial architecture. That's what I like. I feel like my wood frame home cools off easier, whereas my concrete block home, it takes a while to cool off, and it just holds the heat in. But, there's trade-offs. If there's a Category 5 storm, I think my concrete home would probably do better than my wood home. So it's kind of, the same. It just depends on what you want. I've seen wood houses in Placencia and San Pedro go through a Category 5 hurricane. At least I was told. I've never been in a Category 5 hurricane in Belize. We did go through Hugo in '89 in Charleston, but in Belize we haven't. And some of the houses that they point out and tell me back in the day, it went through Hurricane Iris. Yeah, it was Iris, I think, in '02 in Placencia.
Oh, I'll tell you what, though, we would kill some trivia nights if it was Belize.
That's right.
To do that.
Yeah. So Marty, revisit availability of medical services, please. Also homeowners insurance. Excellent question. Medical services is getting better. I kind of always tell people you're fine, pretty much routine stuff in Belize, having a baby, the cold, whatever. Me personally, I'm not going to have heart surgery or anything like that in Belize. I'm going to go to Merida, Mexico, or Guatemala. Guatemala City has some good doctors. And there's, I think we talked about on one of the other All Access Belize is there's insurance companies that will cover you in all three places. And we had an insurance person on. So make sure you go back and revisit that because we talked about pricing and things like that. And they'd also cover you in the US if you went to the US at like an 80-20. The homeowner's insurance is an all perils insurance. So talking about Chris's question, what's better from a homeowner's insurance, wood is more expensive than concrete. So it's probably like concrete is about 1%, 1.25% of the value that you declare a year, whereas wood is probably 2.5%. So it's quite a bit more. But the doctors are getting, the doctors are good here. They're getting better. Placencia has a hospital going up right now, right by the airport. We had Dr. Was it Dr.? I'll tell you in a second. But we had him going, we had Dr. Leslie on the show a little bit ago, and he's putting a hospital in around the junction of Placencia. The government of Taiwan is paying for a hospital in San Pedro. I was just at the US Embassy on Monday, and I noticed a brand new hospital in Belmopan. St. Luke's is in Belmopan, and St. Luke's is a fantastic place, a fantastic hospital. I've heard nothing but great things about it. So the hospital care is getting better. I had a small tumor. It was not cancerous on my back. It wasn't small. It was about the size of a softball. I did that in Corzal, or not Corzal, Chetumal. So there's a private hospital over there. But in Merida, they speak English and all that. I kind of went there. But in Merida, they have English speaking doctors. They have people that can go with you and all that if you want. So what else? No other questions right now. Anything you want to add, Serena? Any comments, questions? Anything else you wanted to say? I did want to touch on one thing before you expound on it. It was funny when we moved here, and even to this day, we seen, because we did a lot of volunteer work in Belize. We still do, but we helped, help kids to learn to read and things like that. And to see the kids play with marbles and cardboard boxes. What did you think about those kids doing that? They didn't have the Dooney and Burke purses and all that stuff. So just kind of touch on the haves and have-nots, if you will. I mean, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but just, thinking of what happened, or people in the US versus the people in the children in Belize.
Yeah, so especially coming from a private school in Charleston, I would say, I'd get my uniform from Walmart, and all the girls, would make fun of me like, oh, Walmart, we got our stuff from, I don't know, Hollister or something like that. So, seeing how, and I adopted that mentality as well. I hate to say, but it's true. And I think going to Belize, I wrote about that experience. It's something that still stays with me today, is just barefoot, dirty, just kids rolling around in the sand, playing with marbles. Wouldn't even be able to tell, oh man, we really aren't happy, like they were laughing and giggling and being kids. And I think growing up in the country, I would say, was something that I was kind of used to, but still had a Wii and a Nintendo and things like that. And, those kids didn't have those things. So it was nice to see, you don't need things like that to be as happy as they were. So that definitely did stick with me. I did want to say, I saw Chris ask where in Florida I'm at. I am in Deltona, not Daytona, Deltona. It's a kind of small, like suburban town. So we're like 40 minutes from Disney. So next time you come, you'll have to let me know when you're in town.
Yeah, Serena's email is serena@firstchoicebelize.com. So feel free to.
Been to Deltona. He's been to Deltona. Wow.
Awesome. We're looking to invest there. All my eggs are in Belize. And I don't recommend having everybody's eggs in one basket. So I like diversity. I mean, I have some gold, silver, and some crypto and stuff like that, but all my real estate is in Belize. So I finally built up my credit score from not having credit for over 10 years. And we're going to do something in the States, whether it's together or as a syndication, and she helps me with it. So Serena's going to be a big part of the future of Caribbean Capital Group and Remax. I'm not going nowhere. I just want to help her and teach her the business as well. So what else was I going to say? No other questions, huh? We have about 10 minutes. So if there's no other questions, I mean, we can leave early. And again, if you want to listen to this again, all this is recorded. Then we send it to Sarah and her team, and they kind of do their little magic to it and then put it on our YouTube channel. And then hopefully we'll do some other stuff. Serena and I are going to do some lifestyle social media stuff, some shorter videos of what our day is like, what my day is like, and what the day is like in Belize. Because it is kind of different, right? You don't think of, like her mom is always plans, the meal of the week. And in Belize, it's hard to do that because they might be out this week of this or that. I'm a huge Coke Zero person. Last week, they were out. So, well, one of the restaurants or stores was out, so I couldn't buy any. So you just have to plan ahead a little bit and kind of think, okay, go to the store and then decide what you want to make, or make it yourself. If you can't find pita bread, make it yourself. That's what Serena's mom did when we couldn't find it. So what else?
Marty asked, so Serena won't be raising her children in Belize. Oh, um, we have no plans for little baby Serenas anytime soon. Um, I would
Not
say,
ready to be a grandfather yet.
yeah. I will say though that we have touched on it. I would like to, or at least part-time. Any honest, if I'm being, brutally honest, anywhere outside of the States, is where I would like to raise my kids. Just because, even, I mean, we all see the news, the shootings and stuff that just happened in Texas. It's not something that's unheard of in Belize. Crime is so low. You'll see 4-year-olds walking to the store to get their mom a Coke. I would go out and, I mean, not late at night, of course, but, just go out with friends on the sidewalk by ourselves, and, nothing ever happened. I was never worried about my safety there. So that's somewhere definitely that I would like to raise my kids for sure.
Yeah, I thought about that, about the young kids going to the store, riding their bikes. Parents aren't nowhere, right? Parents are working or whatever. They're at the house. And, so people are always talking about how the crime is in Belize. And again, if you look at crime per capita, we are very a violent country per 100 or per 1,000 people, because we only have 415,000 people. So for 125 murders last year, that's a lot for that little bit of people. But if you look at the crime, it's gang, drug, domestic related, majority of it. Very few of it is tourist related or anything like that. I mean, there's a lot of petty theft, but I never saw a 4-year-old, 5-year-old going to a grocery store alone in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cool to do that. And Serena said she had plans to, she would like to live in Belize, like half the year or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I think we touched on it too in the article I wrote that my husband just started his own landscaping business. So we're hoping to set that up so that he's able to kind of go where and when he pleases. I'm working from home remotely, so it's very easy for me to work wherever. So yeah, Mitch, my husband, he loved it when we went in December, and we are really excited. I don't know if I mentioned this at the top, but we plan on going every quarter for business related, and then hopefully sprinkle in a little vacation here and there. So
yeah, very good. Well, Serena, thank you for joining. I'm glad to, I'm proud of you, and thank you for joining. And I did have a lot of guilt taking her away from her friends, but she's assured me that I didn't ruin her life. So.
I will say too, I don't know whose fault this is per se, maybe mine, but none of those people, we really stay in contact with anymore. And I think that's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's just with the way life is, and friends do come and go. But, we, my family and, we all talk to each other. We all love Belize. And I think, again, all of my memories back looking at Belize, I don't look at it at all in a negative light. So thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah. And, just, it's funny how there's more Belizeans that live in the US than Belizeans that live in Belize. And they go to the US to look for opportunity. And in my mind, there's so much opportunity here. They just have to create it. So it's, invite you to come down. It's a beautiful country. You'll fall in love with the people. You'll fall in love with the food. And, you have us to ask questions on and recommend, even if, it doesn't have to be to buy. It can just be to hang out. And Sarah will give one of the listeners today one of the books. We like to give a book. The Go Giver is a book that I'm currently reading. You can choose that one. You can choose cryptocurrency and real estate. This guy's going to be in Belize this week. So we'll be talking about that. And then, of course, Kim Kiyosaki is going to be here this week. Robert Kiyosaki can't come, but his advisors will be here. And or you can have this book. This book is probably his second book has changed my life, the Cash Flow Quadrant. This one was good. Everybody talks about the purple book that changed their life. This one was good for me, but the Cash Flow Quadrant changed my life because I realized I was a solopreneur. I was self-employed, and I don't want to be self-employed. I want to be a business person. And so that book helped me to change mindset. So again, thanks everyone. The next All Access Belize is July 7th, same time. Not sure if I'll be here or Placencia, but thank you for joining, and stay tuned for the updates on who's joining. If we can't get the police officer this month or July, we'll get somebody else. But thanks again, Serena, for joining. And what'd you say?
Maybe me again. Who knows?
Yeah, she's my sidekick. The Serena David Show.
That's our dream right there, babe.
That's right. Anything to spend more time with my, oh, I can't say peanut. Sorry.
I had rules before we started. It's okay.
Sarah, edit that out, please.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good night and see you in paradise soon.